It is party time in the Big 12. The hissy fit, throwing, crying, and whining problematic children of the conference are now gone. So let's take a peek down memory lane because it wasn't all bad.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. Here on Locked On Oklahoma State, we're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And I want to say happy belated America Day to everybody, and congratulations on winning the lottery, because if you're born in America, you're already a winner, baby. And if you cheer on the Big 12, you have more reason to be excited about the new iteration of the conference as opposed to what it used to be. But I also want to talk about some of my favorite memories of playing Oklahoma and Texas throughout their time in the Big 12. We'll kick it off here with basketball and with football. I kind of wanted to cheat here because my favorite times were more like the memories for matchups as opposed to like one specific game. But the time frame of 1995 to 2000 was unlike anything else for me as it pertains to Bedlam. The ultimate matchup of future Hall of Famer Calvin Sampson versus Hall of Famer Eddie Sutton were worth their weight in gold. How could you not love the matchups of Keontae Roberts versus Ryan Minor, or Adrian Peterson versus Bobby Joe Evans, Corey Brewer, Joe Atkins, Nate Eardman getting chased down like a DB on a mean streak by R.W. McQuarters in a basketball jersey? Who doesn't love the battles of Ryan Humphrey and Brent Robish? The surefire NBA draft pick battles between Desmond Mason and Eduardo Nahara. That was the reason I breathed basketball during those times, was those dudes, Desmond Mason, Eduardo Nahara. I hated playing basketball growing up, but if I could rock the number 34 jersey and throw some bows on my cousin every time he yelled, "I'm closing in on you, look, Nahara," bring it on. That's the reason I played, was because of Desmond Mason. But specifically for 1 year, let's say 1999, we're coming off of a Bedlam loss to Eduardo Nahara, dropping down 21 points. He outplayed Desmond by a little bit in the regular season, entering the Big 12 tournament. We were the 5 seed. Entering the tournament, we had to get past Baylor. Then we had to take down the number 1 seeded 13-3 Rick Barnes-led Texas Longhorns squad that had Gabe Manecki and Chris Mim on it before we even had the opportunity to play KU for the conference title. We did avenge that Bedlam demon inside the Kansas City Kemper Arena. Upsetting the Sooners was no small task, but thankfully Desmond Mason, Alex Weber, Glennon Alexander helped Eddie Sutton get the job done. That opened the door for my favorite roster of all time, which is the 2000 squad. As you're talking about guys like Doug Gottlieb, of course, you've got Joe Atkins, you've got Adrian Peterson. And then if you go look at that 2000 roster, to me, that's the greatest time as a basketball fan in Cowboy country. Let's shift over to baseball. My favorite memory was 2001. After getting swept in 2000 by OU, we had to get our revenge, and the revenge would come in a sweeping of OU in Bricktown. Game 2, tied 3-3. Number 17, Jimbo McAuliffe, goes 3 for 3 with the final 2 RBIs to break the tie and put the game away after Luke Scott dropped a bomb behind the start of Mike Miller and the first career save of Joe Weaver. The best, though, so that was my favorite. The best probably has to be last season's 2023 Bedlam for the Big 12 title in Arlington, after allowing them some partial satisfaction of gifting them the regular season. There was no way that the gods of Orange Country Earth were going to allow us to lose to them in the Big 12 title game. We had to leave with the Big 12 title in hand. We could not give them that satisfaction. So the big Bedlam grand finale in all sports came calling, and it was baseball. Before Cowboy closer Robert Kranz established his now signature GIF meme underlining Oklahoma State thingy, Tommy Molsky, Colin Ritchie, and Lane Forsythe helped guide the way for Nolan Schubert to feed guys like Wolfie and Briggerman. And they stood behind those three living legends for Bedlam and Okies with Gabe Davis from Choctaw, Kingfishers catcher Ian Doherty, and UConn Big 12 NCAA All-American Carson Binge, a.k.a. Carson Big Daddy Baller and O'Bray.com Binge. Softball, pretty similar. Growing up, well, I wouldn't say growing up, but here somewhat recently, Sam Shao and the bat flips heard around the world helped, I think, a lot of people to care a little bit more about softball. But Sam Shao will always have my heart for being the reason that I have a big affinity for Cowgirl softball. But much like baseball, I could have easily said that the 2023 winning the Bedlam series in back-to-back fashion in their new fancy 5-star Norman softball facilities, maybe that could be number one. It's called Love's Field, and we definitely loved playing in it because we liked winning, and winning was fun. But winning our first ever Big 12 title against one of the greatest teams to ever play the game of softball was pretty epic. After your Trader ace gets rocked early and the midweek number 3 pitcher has to come in and perform the miracle of the decade, she was able to do that against the insane OU lineup that was hitting home runs at a pace that had never been done before. That game in Stillwater just revolutionized the way I thought, the way that I think you can perceive this Cowgirl softball squad. Its embodiment of everything it's accomplished has been just recently. But I'm going to err on the side of that Big 12 title game. All right, foosball, of course, 2023 Bedlam, 27, 24, the crowd, the atmosphere, the electric energy. OU fans that were kind of by us seemed to be a little nervous. Alan Bowman looked like the necessary presence we could lean on a little bit more in tossing up 335 yards. Xavier Benson showed up big time. Nick Martin showed why he's better than Danny Stutzman. Leon Johnson had the snag of the year. Rashad Owens said, "Hold my beer, big homie, number 17. I got the big grab moves and hauling in 136 yards too." Brennan Presley chipped in another 97 yards in an absolutely crucial conversion moment. Then more of the national Ollie Gordon for Heisman story takes shape as he not only makes a statement on the field with his 137 yards, 2 tutties, but in the tunnel, he made the declaration of our lives. There's only one Oklahoma, and it ends with state. I think for Texas, 2018, Taylor Cornelius went 24-34, dropping 321 yards. Tylen Wallace had 10 grabs for 222 yards at 22.2 yards per catch with a couple tutties. Justice Hill and Chuba Hubbard helped turn up 181 yards. Veteran NFL Okie, Dylan Stoner, the young Tyron Johnson, the walk-on turned into somewhat sort of a phenom, Landon Wolf. Jelani Woods showed off his early tight end abilities. Corn dog to Tylen on 4th and 1 with like a minute 24 before halftime, jumping in between 2 DBs midair to snag the ball that should have easily been picked, was an instant classic. If not, maybe the most iconic of UT moments of my time. The Jason Taylor pick in Austin, probably up there as well. All right, non-Oklahoma State memories that I'll always have a, soft spot in my heart for. K-State knocking off the number 1 undefeated Sooners out of the national title spot by thumping them 35-7 in the Big 12 title game. El Roberson and Darren Sproles just ran the show. And Darren Sproles picked up 235 yards along the way. That was a fun one. Shout out K-State. For the Texas side of things, how about the takeover of Texas by Red Raider Nation? sneakily selling out most of the UT arena and beating the newly crowned Chris Beard Longhorns twice was absolutely amazing. Or if you wanted to shift to West Virginia, beating Texas in football with Will Grier, that always stands out. This whole idea that the Big 12 is going to suffer without OU and Texas in the conference, I think it's almost laughable. It is borderline comedy to me. It just doesn't make sense. But what does make sense is for you to get hooked up and squared away today with Game Time. You've heard me talk about how, the getting to places, the travel, the hotels, the rental, it's unnecessarily complicated. So don't make it harder on yourself. Make sure you get squared away today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and make sure you use that code. They're going to take the guesswork out of you buying the tickets. The last-minute killer deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and lowest price guarantee takes all the guesswork out of it. It's hot and heavy baseball season. There's a tight race here right now. You got the Braves are kind of leading the wild card spot. I watched the Royals game last night. And you don't need to stress. That's what Game Time is here to help you with. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create that account, redeem that code, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The ACC doesn't have much of a guarantee in staying together. The biggest guarantee the ACC has is the fact that they will be in existence for at least a little bit longer. It is fun and it is cute seeing teams like SMU, try to prop themselves up, which is beneficial to them. They think it's beneficial to the ACC. The question is, how long does the ACC survive? The bigger question is, why would the national mouth-breathing buffoon himself, Paul Finebaum, I can't speak English sometimes, Paul Finebaum, was recently discussing how Florida State does not fit in with the Big Ten. And Florida State's likely not going to have an opportunity to get in the Big Ten because of the AAU accreditation. Well, that's just ridiculous. That's clearly some sort of an angle. I don't know if Paul Finebaum is trying to get some positioning in the favor of the SEC to maybe get Florida State and Clemson, Miami, North Carolinas of the world. But this is a preposterous notion that they're not going to get in because of AAU. And just like it's a preposterous notion that Nebraska is going to get kicked out of the Big Ten because they're not AAU. I love the big homie, Greg, but I tried to reach out to Greg before the episode because he is the one who kind of broke some of that Big Ten being unhappy with Nebraska and their AAU accreditation and how they kind of need to find some sort of remedy here before too long. I don't see it. Now, would we benefit if that were the case? Yeah, absolutely, because I think it would mean only natural for Nebraska to go back in the Big 12 if what Greg was saying is true. But I think that they're swinging and missing here. This is now a business. This is pretty much all this is, which is why the NCAA even has significantly less pull and authority than they've ever had before. I personally believe that the NCAA is also running on borrowed time, much like the ACC. If you have an overabundance of the top-tier schools that are unhappy, and you know that nobody's going to be a fan of the fact that UCF is making more money than Florida State. Florida State's not going to be happy about it, so they're absolutely going to continue to try to push to make this thing happen. Now, we've kind of seen some things that where the litigation ends up is pretty important. If it goes to North Carolina, it benefits the NCAA. If it or the ACC, if it's being held in South Carolina, that benefits Florida State. Not exactly sure how that works out, but you don't have to be a rocket science or a mathematician to see the writing on the wall. Just like when Greg and I were being called ridiculous, Big 12 and on, don't know nothing people, it's simply because the writing on the wall. You didn't have to be an expert. You didn't have to have the greatest sources of all time to just be able to put two and two together. Mathematically, I know OU fans struggle in that department, and evidently Paul Finebaum seems to be confused on the direction of college football. The landscape has changed. AAU accreditation means absolutely nothing unless it's being utilized as a tool to say no or get rid of somebody. So if the Big Ten wants to get rid of Nebraska for whatever reason, sure, they can say, well, it's because you're not AAU. But they're not bringing guys in because of AAU. That's just a laughable idea. This is about dollar bills, y'all. This is a business model. And now that universities have some say and a hand in the game to physically help the athletes and provide some of that NIL barrier, nobody cares about AAU unless it's being propped up to be used against you. But the business model that continually is changing has shown its teeth already. Scholastics should be part of the equation here. Absolutely. Getting a degree, regardless of what your athletic career ends up being, is typically pretty beneficial. But the world is waking up, as are football players, as are coaches and trainers and agents. You got to do enough to get by, sure, right? We've heard the saying, C's get degrees. Don't nobody care about this AAU crap, Paul Finebaum. The Big Ten doesn't either, because again, this is a business model. The only way that the Big Ten would be huffy and puffy about this AAU accreditation crap is if they're just simply trying to keep somebody out or get somebody out. This is business. And from a business perspective, both the Big Ten and the SEC are going to take some swings at the top tier ACC schools when this whole thing goes to toss up. Now, what they're willing to provide, I don't know. Where does Notre Dame kind of play a hand in all of this? We don't know. What we do know is the ACC is putting out enough information about themselves to know that they're having a lot of difficulties. There's almost no way imaginable that the ACC finds a way to continue to be relevant. It was the Power 5. Then it went to the Power 4. Now it's become the Power 3. And the ACC, unfortunately, is on the outside of the Power 3 looking in. So those teams that have a lot of the street cred are not going to sit idly by. The TV contracts for the ACC aren't magically going to explode overnight. So I think this is more of a move to prop up the idea that when the ACC does fall apart, that these schools need to end up in the SEC because they fit better. Again, if it's true and the ACC doesn't like Nebraska's non-AAU accreditation, that's even better news because we'll bring Nebraska back in a heartbeat. Bring back the Big 8, baby. Not just the hateful 8, the Big 8. It's a wild time. People are inevitably going to say some wild things. We'll move on to the last point. We do have to talk about Jon Denman. The running back is going to make his announcement tomorrow. But before we do that, we got to talk a little bit about the Big 12's positioning and TCU's most recent statements in regards to fully participating in all of the NIL stuff. And there's like a benchmark of spending 20 to 22-ish million to be able to accomplish that. TCU's already come out and said that that is something that they're going to do. They're going to be extremely competitive at the top of the heap when it comes to this distribution of NIL dollar bills. Texas Tech has said something similar, as has some other schools in the Big 12. But does this kind of start that domino where unequivocally, guys are coming out and saying this is what we're doing no matter what. Does that financial number become the benchmark for all Big 12 schools? I think that'll be pretty interesting to see how that kind of rolls out, because I don't know about you guys, there's a conversation in between the equal revenue share and how that's going to get distributed among the student athletes. And as much as we all think that equestrian and softball and tennis need as much as they can get, I don't know that if I fully side with TCU here on just across the board giving all out evenly. Football should get more money. Basketball should get more money if it's productive. If your football team is a 500 ball club, then sure, you take that money and you divide it up wherever the heck you need. But if your football team's winning conference titles, playing for playoff appearances, they deserve the bulk of the money. And that's where this whole thing could get slightly convoluted. So tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. When it comes to the NIL perspective for the universities, do you think that it should be 100% even across the board, which I do see a lot of benefits to, right, as a university? But at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with the set business model. Like the SEC, for example. Why would you allow Vanderbilt to keep bringing down the conference? Nobody watches them. Nobody's really concerned about what they're doing. It's a written in, guaranteed, bona fide, certified win for every other team in the SEC. So why do they get the same money as Georgia and Bama? I mean, I understand it for the longevity purposes of keeping everybody happy and everybody together. But if there's a team that's finishing dead last every single year, in my opinion, there should be a little bit of fluctuation, at least as far as the money is divided up. But as Brett Yormark continues to be a visionary for this league, it does appear as though some of these moves are coming, right? Whether it be the private equity money or the logo sponsorship style of money. One of those things is likely an inevitability at this point in time. We're just being prepared for it. And before we skedaddle on off of here, this deserves its own segment, but sometimes I want to give a little tidbit to the people who stay to the very end. That is you guys. I appreciate you. Jon Denman. I've been asked a lot on whether I think he'll commit to Oklahoma State tomorrow. He's a 5'11", 195-pound running back out of Palestine, Texas. He plays running back. He plays safety. He's a shooting guard in basketball and a certified sprinter on the track. On the basketball court, he can do the daggone thing. He can bench over 315 right here, right now. He made regionals in track running a 10.93 in the 100 meter, and that was at the Dogwood Relays. That track meet has several clips from the whole meet online. He's projected by most as a running back, but he does have several offers to play safety as well. Over his 27 offers, he told Baylor, Utah, and the Pretender Ponies of SMU to kick rocks to make the list more meaningful. And tomorrow he chooses between that meaningful list of Arizona, Michigan State, Houston, TCU, Oklahoma State, and Boston College. I did a little bit of research before we jumped on here. If you read the TCU message boards and things of that nature, they're fully sold on the idea that Michael Turner is going to rock the purple of TCU. So they don't seem to be talking a lot about Jon Denman. I don't know that that means they're underestimating Jon Denman, but much of the conversation you're seeing in TCU country is revolving around Michael Turner. As it pertains to Boston College, I think this is a good way to prop up the academic standing that he already has. But if you look at the Boston College message boards, they don't think they have a shot at all of getting Jon Denman. Most of the conversations on the Boston College message boards are just thanking the coaches for even offering him a scholarship and taking a chance on somebody like this from the Texas area. So really, I think we're looking at Michigan State, Houston, TCU, and Oklahoma State. I would say that, well, in Arizona, Michigan State, Houston, right, might be the front runners here. TCU and Oklahoma State might be on the secondary list. You guys know I do a lot of events in the Dallas area, the Houston area. He's in Palestine, Texas, which is like in between, kind of out of the way, in the middle of nowhere. So I haven't talked to this young man, nor have I talked to his coaches. So I don't know which way he's leaning. I couldn't give you a legitimate assessment. What I will say is, from reading the articles and the message boards and seeing all the visits he's been on in sequential order, I think maybe we have a 35-ish% chance of landing Jon Denman. But I think more telling would be wherever Jon Denman decides to go, likely means that place is out on Michael Turner, because a decent amount of us are competing for the Michael Turner sweepstakes. So for sure, Oklahoma State is in on that deal. TCU is in on that deal, alongside every other school in the country. But if Jon Denman chooses Oklahoma State, let's just say that, then that likely means it's because our coaches know that Michael Turner is likely to go elsewhere. I think the same could be said for TCU or whomever. If Jon Denman goes to a place that is in the running for Michael Turner, I would say that almost assures you that that place, whomever it is not getting Michael Turner. We have a lot of running backs, and most of them are really young. Guys, Trent Howland has a couple years of eligibility. Sessi is a redshirt freshman, essentially. Then you've got Jaden Allen Hendricks is a brand new freshman. Rodney Fields, brand new freshman. AJ Green has the medical capabilities for next season. We're going to have some accessibility to some of the big-time gets in the transfer portal, because this is 99.9% Ollie Gordon's last season of college football. So maybe the fact that we have a stacked deck and all of them are so young could play a little bit of a negative part in landing the services of Jon Denman. But it'll be intriguing to see whomever he decides to go to is probably not in the running for Michael Turner anymore. It is what it is. A little bit of housekeeping. I got a baseball tournament in Edmond next week. Feel free to hit me up if you want to come watch some baseball and hang out with a couple of the fellas. And Robert Pierce, my dude, you got to hit me up on socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, so I can start putting something together for you. The tallies up to the season for the giveaways and everything, not done. But, dude, you've earned a giveaway of some sort. You're a shoe-in to get something of some kind, even if you don't win the full, shebang at the end, because you've been rocking and rolling and from the beginning. So unless somebody goes back and comments on 300-plus episodes, you've won something, my dude. So hit me up, give me a holler, so I can get an idea of what you're interested in, and we'll get something rocking and rolling. Everybody else, keep doing what you're doing. Get your orange on. Feel good. It's Friday. I think it's all we're going to have for this one right here. You know I love you. As always, God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. So happy you choose to be here, because you could be anywhere else. Like it, share, comment, subscribe. My podcast and folks out there. The bricks, the foundation, the bread, the butter. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. All right, y'all. Later, tatters.